What is Lula's top foreign advisor's role in the hybrid war coup attempt against Venezuela? Brazil's top foreign policy advisor, Celso Amorim, who has been described by the magazine Foreign Policy as the world's best foreign minister, has played a crucial role in the ongoing hybrid war coup attempt against Venezuela. The decision to appoint a Brazilian official as a key player in the hybrid war against Venezuela shows a calculated move that allows Brazil to position itself as a supporter of democracy while intervening within Venezuela, effectively using Amorim as a sober judgment figure that masks the underlying motives of capitulation. This article explores Amorim's actions and Brazil's involvement in this situation, by tracing Amorim's political movements of the last years as to clarify the Brazilian state's policy towards Venezuela. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva of Brazil has demonstrated a concerted effort to delegitimize the Chavista movement and the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, PSUV, particularly in light of the hybrid war disinformation campaign targeting the recent elections in Venezuela. Lula has positioned their proposals on the assumption that electoral fraud was prevalent in the July 28 elections, painting the Chavista movement as fundamentally illegitimate. Brazil, under Amorim's guidance, along with Colombia and Mexico, have adopted the role of the good cops in the U.S. hybrid war, synchronizing with the usual bad cops of the U.S., Canada, Argentina, Panama, Dominican Republic, Peru, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Ecuador, Chile, Paraguay and Uruguay aim to isolate Venezuela by creating an environment where Maduro is pressured to concede to demands by the opposition or new elections. Amorim is leveraging hybrid warfare tactics employed by the United States against Venezuela. It seems Brazil has found a way to subtly advance its own agenda within the region. This approach enables Brazil to engage in its own form of hybrid warfare, utilizing the turmoil in Venezuela. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Brazilian Presidential Advisor Celso Amorim at the White House on July 18 to discuss strengthening bilateral relations, also covering global and regional priorities, including Haiti, Venezuela, and Russia's war against Ukraine. Celso Amorim's recent activities and engagements with U.S. officials signal a deliberate strategy that positions him as an operative in the broader hybrid war against the Bolivarian country. Together with Brazil's control of the Argentinian embassy in Venezuela, provides it with various tools to influence the political regional landscape, support pro-US opposition movements. The arrangement of Brazil controlling the Argentinian embassy in Venezuela came about after the country's government ordered the removal of diplomats from the facility, leading Brazil to take over its administration. Amorim reiterated Brazil's support for the implementation of the Barbados Agreements signed in October 2023, between the Venezuelan government and opposition forces of mutual respect of democracy. According to Venezuelan authorities, the deal has been interpreted by the pro-US opposition as a license to carry out criminal or violent endeavors that are not in the spirit of a democratic process. Amorim, though he acknowledges the role economic sanctions play in Venezuela's predicaments, invisibilizes the other forms of hybrid war against the Bolivarian state, such as massive disinfo campaigns, political and physical violence, constant cyber attacks, and of course his role as the human face of the coup. Amorim traveled to Venezuela on July 26 to monitor the elections as an observer, held on July 28. He remained in the country until July 30 when he met with Maduro and the main figure of the opposition, Edmundo González Urrutia. On July 29, the PT, Lula's Workers' Party, recognized the victory of President Nicolas Maduro in a statement, saluting the Venezuelan people for the electoral process, and saying the elections were a peaceful, democratic and sovereign journey. Days later, in a Globo News interview on August 7, Amorim spoke in his usual riddles, stating that the elections and the Venezuelan constitution must be respected, while at the same time, he distanced the government and himself from that PT party's note congratulating Maduro. The original note URL is not available on the PT website anymore, but another website did an article on the note. As it stands, both he and Lula are now also calling for new elections despite the opposition failing to present evidence of fraud, the backdrop of a violent coup attempt and opposition figures promoting terrorism in association with foreign powers. On August 15, 2024, Amorim was invited to speak at the Senate's Foreign Affairs Committee, where he reiterated that Brazil would not recognize any victor and that Maduro should call for a new vote, if he has good sense. Amram emphasized that Brazil would not recognize any victor in the Venezuelan elections until the results could be transparently assured. In addressing the idea of new elections in Venezuela, Amram made it clear he does not trust the Venezuelan authorities in conducting their elections. Amram's role as Brazil's top foreign policy advisor placed him in a pivotal position to influence events in Venezuela. The brilliance of having a high-ranking Brazilian official of foreign affairs play this crafty role shows how far the B of the BRICS is willing to position Amram in Venezuela to serve as a council of capitulation disguised as sober judgment. With Amram's influence, the US can sway other countries in the region to adopt similar stances against the Chavista government. It is because Lula is seen by many as a champion of multipolarity and Colombia's current government as well has gathered global fame from the international left, that having these two leaders compromised jointly is so damaging to Venezuela's LAC relations. Andrew Caribco has documented just how Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has shifted his stance significantly since his imprisonment, aligning more closely with US interests, and Amram has been there every step of the way. In early 2023, Lula met with President Biden and condemned Russia's SMO in Ukraine, a move that surprised many, as no other BRICS leader had done so. His condemnation included a joint statement with Biden that criticized Russia's territorial violations. Lula's change in perspective seems to reflect a recalibration of his multipolar worldview, which was influenced by his experiences in prison. Lula's pro-US alignment raises questions about the circumstances of his release from prison, suggesting possible US involvement in leaking information that discredited his political opponents just in the nick of time. Then Amram, as Lula's foreign minister, strongly implied that Putin will be arrested if he comes to Brazil, indicating that Lula has compromised his previous stance to regain power and support US interests in the region. Brazil's objectives in relation to Venezuela are not solely focused on advocating for a complete regime change with a human face, but rather this strategy aims to position Brazil as a dominant force in the region, serving as a senior partner to a neoliberal Venezuela. Amram's approach can be interpreted as a smokescreen for capitulation to US demands, masking a deeper complicity in efforts to destabilize the Venezuelan government, effectively serving as Washington's proxy in the region.